Hello and welcome to the Sonic Cinema Podcast. My name is Brian Scuttle and thank you for joining me at www.sonic-cinema.com as well as the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel. Join us also at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. You can keep tabs on all of the new watches for me that I am partaking in during this moment of social distancing, and you can do that at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. So I'm here today with a filmmaker that I've known for a few years just online and through a few of his films, and it's good to talk to him. We're going to talk a little bit about his films and also just talk about just film in general and just sort of like what we may be doing to sort of pass the time right now as we are all social distancing. Please welcome to the podcast, Nathan Suher. Thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, Brian, I'm happy to be here.
What exactly is it that what inspired you to get into filmmaking?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I grew up in my childhood was always involved with going to the movies, and as a lot of people are in my age. But for some reason, I really, at a young age, dreamed of making movies. Probably going back to the early '80s, seeing like a lot of people, like early Steven Spielberg movies and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't too long after that my parents purchased a camcorder, one of those old VHS camcorders back then. And I was shooting home movies as far back as the mid '80s. And I just was behind the camera. And I think at the time I wasn't even like thinking as a filmmaker, but just like I just got familiar with how to hold a camera. And then I started thinking about shot composition and sound quality. And I wasn't editing anything like this, but I really kind of probably laid the foundation in a lot of ways. And it wasn't until I think I kind of took it seriously as a possible career until I got into college, really, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to do something in media, but I really didn't know what it was going to be. And I took a bunch of film courses and understanding film classes and film theory courses. And I went to Boston University, and they had some great guest speakers that came in and met some of the filmmakers who gave talks. And I was really inspired at that time of my life. And it kind of just went from there, I guess.
Okay. Who are some of the filmmakers that inspired you? You mentioned Spielberg in the 80s,
yeah.
But
I think
who else?
Yeah. Well, I think in my age, yeah, he was definitely the big name that everybody wanted to like make Indiana Jones or Star Wars or things like that. So I grew up with popcorn movies, but I guess it wasn't until I was in college where I got into actually a filmmaker that really inspired me was Robert Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. It was around college where I saw El Mariachi and Desperado, and like I want to do that. And I actually did do that. It was a few years later. I made my first short film, which was a blatant ripoff of the movie Desperado, but set in an urban environment. I think I even plagiarized some of the dialogue. I was so desperate to make a movie. But I got into that scene following him and like Quentin Tarantino and mm-hmm. David Fincher in the 90s. So I get, all the cliche filmmakers that were like the hot, they were fresh out of Sundance and, they were making it big in Hollywood. I totally got swept up in all those filmmakers, Steven Soderbergh and mm-hmm. Kevin Smith and all that. And, it probably was low hanging fruit when I was trying to look for inspiration at the time, but it definitely laid the foundation. And, since then I think I found a lot more filmmakers have influenced me, and so it's a good thing I guess I have developed in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Where can before we get into it for a little bit, where can people find your work online?
Sure. Yeah. I actually have a website which has most of my content on it that is called imfilmworks.com. That's the letter I, the letter M, filmworks.com. And from that website, there are links to pretty much all of my short films that I have produced over the years. And yeah, it's a good hub for everything. I also have I have a Facebook page for I Am Filmworks, and you can find me there as well. So yeah, that's the best place of finding my work.
Okay. Yeah, and I haven't seen too many of your films. I've seen a couple of your shorts that you've sent me. Right There, Next Door, and then one that I personally was not a huge fan of when I watched it,
Oh,
but
I know.
has one of the best titles I've ever heard, Scary Little Fuckers.
Yeah. I remember your review was not glowing, but that's okay. I love anybody who pays it any attention at all.
Yeah.
I got a funny story. I'll tell you about that in a moment, but go ahead.
And I really like that there's such a wide variety of genre that you cover in all of those. I mean, Right There's kind of a silent film, more of a comedy drama. Scary Little Fuckers obviously is a horror movie, sort of inspired by Gremlins. And then you've got Thriller Next Door. And how...
So you're saying, Brian, I have no style. I just...
No, I would say you have... I would say... I was about to say you have versatility.
Okay, yeah, that's the other side of the end of the spectrum.
Which is good to have. I think that's always kind of a good thing to have. I mean, yes, it's nice to have yourself in a particular niche, but also branching yourself out and doing different things.
Well, I think that's good and bad in some ways. I mean, it might signify that I haven't necessarily found my niche yet, or what my voice is yet, and I think I'm still trying to figure out what kind of filmmaker I am. As I go. Okay, everything is, I mean, every film is very different in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of filmmakers that make one kind of movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you're trying to make a name for yourself and make a dent in this industry, becoming really good at one thing is probably the best way to go. Creating a brand around your style of filmmaking. Definitely something that I have not done yet I think it's because I don't think there is just one thing that I can say is my favorite or that I'm fully passionate about.
Yeah.
I'm still exploring every corner of genre and I can think of, because there's so much I love about all of it, but I can't say that my favorite style of film is this or that. I don't have a favorite. I just know what I like and what I think is good. So that may hurt me if I really want to build a brand, and that's kind of the formula as an entrepreneur, is to create a brand that people will want to purchase and want to share and follow you, and that's not my formula, and I guess this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, you mentioned Soderbergh earlier as somebody who was a bit of an influence. I mean, he is very much all over the map as far as is the genres that he approaches and the styles he approaches. So, I mean, and you're right. There's certainly nothing wrong with staying within a particular niche and particular type of story that you're telling, and just sort of starting to refine that. But I think that's one of the interesting things about Soderbergh that I know when I started really paying attention to his work, really grabbed me about him, is because of the fact that he would approach all of these different genres and take risks within those genres and push himself into different directions. And that's one of the things I really like about it. And I mean, I love the fact that it's like there are some filmmakers who, you know, and it's nice. It's been nice for me to be able to see filmmakers who have grown, in particular when they're trying to expand, when they're trying to do different things and looking at different things as far as what they're wanting to do. It's like that's always kind of the nice thing to see that form of filmmaker, sort of the way a filmmaker blossoms that way.
Yeah.
When you did, I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't think I've seen it since I've reviewed it, but Right There, I remember really, really appreciating Right There, and I love that it was very much silent film is such a hard thing to do nowadays. I think it's almost very difficult to do nowadays because you look at something like The Artist, it's very much playing into the old Hollywood tropes of silent filmmaking and stuff like that, and then you look and it's playing into the ideas of the type of movie of Keaton or Chaplin made, and then but it's like whenever I see somebody who does something, how difficult is it to do something where dialogue is not the primary focus?
Well, actually, that's interesting. Actually, doing Right There was the easiest, in a lot of ways, easiest movie for me that I've done so far. I don't mean like it was a breeze, but I think if I could just make silent films, it would be something I could do a lot simpler, because I don't think writing is my best thing. And when I think about a movie, I think about the visuals and I think about the emotions, and the dialogue is the hardest thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that to be able to tell a story without words, and a lot of it has to do with great casting as well, getting the right people that can emote. It's powerful. I mean, it is. It's making Right There. It was something that was actually the last thing I can say I probably wrote on my own. It was really just a surreal experience. It was. I'm trying to think. I feel I'm getting off topic from your question here. I'm trying to remember what it was.
I guess basically how, as far as like storytelling without words, and like how just solely having to rely on the image to really convey the emotions, convey the narrative that you're trying to get through, and sort of what was that experience like? I mean, all film has every film has that in some ways or another. There are some cases where the action and the visuals drive the film more than dialogue, but at the same time, you also most of the time you have dialogue and just little bits of dialogue that can help fill in that narrative. And without relying on that, like sort of what's it like to sort of not have that, sort of commit to not having that to rely on?
Well, it actually, it's interesting. I even compared to a lot of the films that I've done, some that you've liked and some you haven't. But I think if a movie can't be told and understood with the dialogue turned off to begin with, I think that you're losing something like that. Something is not quite right about your story, because to be able to have a story with no words, I'm having a really hard time articulating this, I guess, right now. I mean, here's the thing. Like when Right There was being made, some people listening haven't seen it yet, but one of the things I debated when I was making it is, do I do the classic, old Hollywood thing where I put in like title cards and like, and I thought about that, and I didn't want to do that because I still wanted to feel modern. That was the whole thing. It's an homage to the silent era, but it's a very modern movie in a lot of ways, and it's a love story, which timeless as well. So people ask you, you made a silent film, and I don't even really call it a silent film. I said, well, it's my bittersweet love story movie, and my story of unrequited love, which I'm trying to make a trilogy of, actually. That and Next Door is the other one, so there's one more to be made some point. But I didn't want to basically turn it into like. What am I trying to say? Like just a direct reference to 20 cinema. And I thought, and I just thought to myself that the story, as long as the story and the acting is powerful enough, it was never going to be a challenge to tell the story I wanted to do without dialogue. It was never a consideration to make the movie with dialogue. It just really felt natural, the whole process. And honestly, the script is like 4 paragraphs long. I mean, that's all it really is. And finding the right cast was huge. And I knew that the actors I had in mind for this early on, and they got it. And it just worked out. But all the movies that I've done, I can watch, and I always watch a movie with the dialogue turned off or with the volume off completely, just to see, what is being conveyed just by the images that you're seeing. And I think that's something that filmmakers should do if they don't do it already. Before they say a movie is done, watch your film with everything turned off and see, like, does it actually maybe even show it to somebody who's never seen your movie before? What did you get out of this movie, just by watching it and not hearing it? And you actually will get some great feedback that way, and then show them the movie with the sound on later. But I think it's a really good practice. I've done that a few times where I've shown a movie without the words, like, just tell me what you think of this. Did you follow along? And honestly, they get 95% of everything that's going on. They do. Mm-hmm. And if they are getting that, then you've done something right. Then you are telling the story as you should be through the visual medium.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually an interesting way of doing it, and yeah, I can definitely see how that's beneficial, not only to see it but also to have other people see it in that manner, because of the fact that you do see you would get a better idea of how the film works visually as far as telling the story in terms of cinema. And that's definitely a great way of looking at. What are some of, because the last movie I saw of yours was Scary Little Fuckers. What was you've done a couple of other films since then, though, haven't you?
I haven't done a short since then, but after Scary Little Fuckers, well, around the same time I did Next Door. I don't know which actually you saw first, but I actually did Next Door. Technically, I did it after, but I think they came out at the same time. But since then, I've been focusing on getting my first feature launched. And I've been working on that for a long time. And I thought I was done about 2 years ago. But then I decided that, well, no, we need to fix a bunch of things on it. And it's basically done. It's got a couple minor glitches in the color, and I'm working with my colorist right now with what's going on right now in the world with coronavirus. It's kind of, you'd think that people would have more time to work on things, but at the same time, things all kind of get out of whack. Yeah. So I imagine within the next couple of weeks, it will be completely done. I've been saying that for 2 years, but I really honestly believe that. Higher Methods is the name of the feature film that I have been working on, what seems like now, for 5 years. The summer of 2015 is when the first work started getting done on it. And I was originally going to film it in the summer of 2016, but then I had to put it off, and we filmed it in January and March of 2017. 20 days worth of shooting. The movie had a test screening. I'm calling it a test screening officially. September of 2018, but since then, that's when I went back to redo a lot of things on it, and I'm really proud of how it looks. It looks amazing. I am so looking forward to having it done and getting it out there. Right now, we're going through the film festival route, although who knows what festivals are going to happen this year. But they already have my money, so we'll see. And so that's in the wings. Then about a year and a half ago, I did a second feature, which has not come out yet, but that is also completely done and is in the film festival circuit when and if that picks up again. And that's called The Assassination of Western Civilization. That was, Higher Methods was a psychological drama thriller, and Assassination of Western Civilization is my political intrigue thriller movie. It's a oneer, which in the industry is basically a single take feature film.
Okay.
So we rehearsed it for about 2 weeks, and then over the course of one weekend, we got into a location, and we just attempted over and over to film it as a single take. And it wasn't until the very tail end of the weekend where we got our full take in.
Oh, wow.
So we got it. We did get it done. And it's just recently, the composer just finished the score on it. I'm going to mention his name because he's a phenomenal composer. His name is Indy Shom. He's in Philadelphia right now, but he has scored both of my features, which they just sound amazing. So I'm really proud and happy that he's been part of these projects. Okay. And those will, originally I was going to have a double feature screening on May 17th at the Route 1. Well, you're not. Where are you at? You're
I'm in Georgia.
You're in Georgia. You're from. Oh, you're in Georgia. All right. We could talk about Georgia. No. But there's a local theater where I was gonna have a double feature for both of these films. That's not happening.
Yeah.
But both of these are done, and I'm hoping by this summer, I am going to reschedule that, and we'll have our theatrical screening that everybody wants. We're hoping to do it.
Okay.
So that's what's going on with that. So you asked me what I've been doing since those shorts. That's a big chunk of my time. Those two things.
Yeah.
And I'll mention one other project that actually just wrapped up. So a good friend of mine, and he is also the writer of Scary Little Fuckers and Higher Methods and the Assassination of Western Civilization. His name is Lenny Schwartz. He is an amazing screenwriter, playwright, and has so much energy. I can't keep up with him. But he had this crazy idea about a month ago of, he said, "Hey, Nathan, let's make a feature film." I'm like, "Lenny, we're in the middle of a lockdown quarantine. What are you talking about?" "Well, I'm going to send off to some local actors. A lot of, he works in the theater, so he knows a lot of Rhode Island theater actors. So I'm going to get some theater actors to do like these monologues of what it's like to be in quarantine during the coronavirus." I'm like, "All right." And you think you want to like help me assemble this and produce it and help me get it on? He didn't even know what to do with it. He just knew he wanted to write these short little script monologues. And what do you think we could do with it, Nathan? And sure, I'll help you with this whole thing. And it blew up. It blew up to having over 120 individual video clips of actors from all over the country. Most of them, a lot of them are in the New England area, but we hit every part of the country, and they all submitted videos of them, what it's like, their personal experience during this lockdown. And some are funny, some are really sad, some are horrifying. But there is a through line to all of these. So one leads into the other. And they all kind of reference, "Oh, my brother said this, or my wife left me for this other guy." And then the next video is that person's perspective. And it just goes on. And it's a long movie. It was supposed to be a short. In the end, we have a 2-hour and 27-minute movie.
Oh, wow.
It's epic. Yeah, we're approaching Irishman territory. It's epic. And we have all these actors. So a lot of people are, participated in this, and was last Saturday night. I said, "Well, how do we get this out? How are we going to show this?" And the easy thing would be, well, we could just throw it up on YouTube, or, it didn't cost us anything. So throw it up on YouTube or Vimeo and just drop it, But I said, let's do something bigger than that. We have all these actors that participated in this. And this would be something that would be such a great to have a community experience. Like if we could show this in a theater, imagine all these actors that were in this movie all coming together. It would be such a fun thing. So I thought of, I've never done this before, but I've seen watch parties on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out how does this work? So in the end, last Saturday night, we had a Facebook watch party release party of our movie. And our movie is called Far From Perfect: Life Inside a Global Pandemic. And it quickly got, we had a whole bunch of people in the room commenting on it as it was going. It was so much fun. And I even got in the action. My daughter, Chloe, who is 8, who also wants to be some celebrity of some form, she got to be in it. Excuse me. And we had a blast. And everybody that was in the room had a blast watching it. And I quickly, had a conversation with Lenny. We got to get this out right away. So it's going to premiere on Amazon Prime this weekend. Maybe
nice.
Tomorrow, maybe Sunday. It's actually, I had to quickly do all of the closed captionings for it. And Amazon can be a bitch to get it to accept your movie. It has to be the proper codec. It has to have the proper size poster and background image, all of these requirements. I've done this now a bunch of times, so it wasn't as hard. Mm-hmm. But I'm still waiting for the word that has been published. And once it's so, we're dropping it this weekend. And it's just been really fun. And I don't think it's a secret anymore. We're going to do another one of these. Okay. Lenny, who is big in the loves comic books and follows the comic world like to the letter, goes to Comic-Con every year. And as some people know, it's been canceled.
Yep.
The San Diego Comic-Con. So we are going to do a similar thing. It's going to be more of a comedy, but we're going to do a similar thing of all the people that would have gone to Comic-Con but can't, and they're stuck at home. What happens to cosplay players when they can't go to Comic-Con? They get dressed up in their own home and shenanigans ensue. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And we've got some big names included in this. Like Lenny has some good connections in that industry. So we're going to have some surprisingly recognizable names that are going to be involved in this one.
Okay. So
I'm really excited. And I think we're going to start work on it in a couple weeks. He's writing it right now. But we'll see how it goes. I don't know, but there's really not much more to share at the moment. Okay. He's going to send me over a script in the next week or so, and we're going to start getting the project organized.
Well, I definitely want to check out those features at some point. So, yeah, I saw I can't remember what I was doing Saturday night that I wasn't able to do the watch party.
What could you possibly have been doing?
I know.
Were you out somewhere? Nobody has any excuse. That's how I look at it. I'm only kidding.
But no, that sounds like such a fun idea. And yeah, we have Dragon Con in Atlanta over Labor Day weekend, and it's like, as far as I know, right now it's still gonna go, but we're obviously gonna see what happens closer to September. But at the same time, it's like it's gonna be surreal to think that would be canceled, because that's something that is very it's like Comic-Con in terms of how central crowds are to the whole experience.
Yeah.
And basically takes over all downtown Atlanta. But so other than making films, what have you been up to in this time of social distancing and basically staying the hell home?
I'm learning a lot about third grade math because I have an 8-year-old. That's been fun. And no, it's been weird. Now, what I haven't talked about yet is I do these films, but this isn't what I do for a job. This is my passion. But I work as I'm the executive director of the Weston Media Center, and we're the public access, cable access channel for the town of Weston, Massachusetts. And we're not at work right now. We're still pumping out content for our cable channel.
Right.
But I have a lot of downtime, so I've been spending it being creative and doing what I can. So you have this podcast, Brian, and I have been a fan of podcasts for now 10 years. I've been avidly following podcasts. It's been my dream to have my own podcast, and I just never really had the time. Well, I have the time now. So I actually got inspired, and about a month ago, I launched my own podcast. It's not on film, though, because I feel like my life is already surrounded by film so much that I need to take a break from that. So I I started the music podcast.
Okay.
Because I love music, and I've always got something going on, some CD going, or I collect vinyl, and I just love music. And I decided that I'm just gonna share my love of music with whoever the hell wants to listen to me go on, ramble on for 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm having the time of my life doing that. Can I mention the show?
Go ahead.
So my podcast is called The ABCs of Rock. And it's up on I have it through Spreaker, but it's up on Spotify and iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever they call it now, and Deezer, Google Podcasts, Podchaser. It's on all the major platforms. It's a lot of fun. I'm basically going through the whole alphabet of rock and roll from A to Z, talking about a band that represented by every letter, and sharing some of the songs I like of theirs, and talking about it, talking about some trivia, and occasionally my daughter is a guest host on it, and she's a lot of fun to have on this, and it's been a blast. So that's one thing I'm doing. Obviously, this other feature that I did with Lenny was a big thing. I've also launched a YouTube show for my daughter Chloe. I've talked about her way too much, but she just loves because I'm a filmmaker. She's like, Daddy, I want to act and I want to do this. She wants to do all these things. And she actually is a good actor. She's been in 2 plays already, and she loves it. I'm in huge trouble. Because she's a huge ham. But she loves watching these, what I call god-awful shows on YouTube called, it's basically like families that just record themselves doing things around the house. Oh, we're going to clean up the house today. Eat these brownies, or we're going to go out and do stuff. And families that are much more interesting than our family, I'm sure. But she wants to do this, and she started a YouTube channel called Fab Family 4, and me and my wife Lori is in it, and Chloe and our youngest daughter Scarlett, who just turned 3, and we're all in it. We all just kind of like have our own shenanigans, and we created a YouTube channel. So and of course I'm editing those shows. Yeah. So yeah, like it's really crazy, how my life has changed over the last month, where I'm going to work every day, filming government meetings and doing all the stuff at work and running a TV station. And I basically now have my own home studio creating content for my family or for myself. And of course I do edit for things that are going on the air on a channel, but it's really crazy. But it's been fun in some ways. I mean, I don't like being locked in here all the time.
Right.
But it's really, and I was saying this before we began, I feel like at least I've been able to take advantage of the opportunities to kind of think outside the box and create some things I wouldn't have done before. And, I go up on social media on Facebook and all my friends, and they're watching, hey, I watched the entire season of so-and-so. They just finished Ozark season 3. I'm like, or everyone's watching Tiger King. I'm like, I'm not touching this. I mean, I haven't watched more than maybe 3 movies in the past month, because I just haven't had time.
Yeah.
I am between these projects I've been working on, and I'm telling you, the busiest I've been probably in years is the past month. Mm-hmm. And also, of course, homeschooling Chloe, and it's been exhausting. It's been just exhausting. But, it's been nice in some ways. Coming home and having a home-cooked meal every single night for the past 6 weeks is so rare. And I think it's really nice to have the family time, and I do love my family. So I guess, it's easier for me. Maybe some people don't want to be with the family as much, but it's been a real blessing in a lot of ways. And of course, yes, there are times we all want to strangle each other, but we're going to look back at this time in our lives. And what's really interesting is this is something that the collective world is sharing in right now. It is the one thing that is bonding this whole country in a lot of ways. Even though we all have different political affiliations, religious affiliations, this is going to be something that we as an entire country are sharing in right now. And we're all suffering through this whole thing. And I hope that in some ways this is going to bring people together, because when this ends, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime as soon as people want it to.
Yeah.
But, and it might be a whole new normal that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
It might not ever be the way it was, but we're going to appreciate, I think, seeing our friends so much more, or hanging out and doing the things that we can't do now. And there's an opportunity for this to bring people together when that time comes. So, it's, I can be somewhat optimistic that life is full of ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, and we're in a deep valley right now. But this too shall pass, as they say, and better times are coming. And I think it's going to make us stronger in the long run, all of us, and we're going to have a much bigger appreciation for the people in our lives and what we have. So, I'm staying positive throughout this whole thing, and I hope that everyone else is finding a way of doing that in whatever way they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm somebody who, like, I'm currently furloughed from my job, so it's like I don't have those responsibilities. So yeah, I mean, I have basically been doing all of the binge watching and watching of movies and stuff like that. And
I'm jealous.
Well, I mean,
No, I am. But in some ways I am.
But I mean, it's also one of those things where when this happened, when this really started and my job closed, it was like, oh, okay, so I'm going to take advantage of this and get a lot of stuff done. And I mean, a lot of it involved like trying to watch movies, trying to, working on reviews and, keeping very consistent and doing a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. And I've been it's one of those things where I look back on it 5 weeks in, and it's like I'm not quite. It hasn't been quite as blisteringly paced in that respect as it probably as I expected it to necessarily be. But I'm also understanding of the fact that it's like that's perfectly fine because I still am getting a lot of stuff done. It's just, I don't need to get one or two things done every day or even every other day. It's like I can give myself a little bit of time to relax because even before the whole pandemic started, like the first few months of this year were really stressful for me for a lot of personal reasons. And it was so it's one of those things where it's like, now that I have the time to this is the first real time I've had to relax in a long time. And it's like, okay, I can take it easy. And it's like, but I also have ideas for stuff that I want to do and podcasts that I want to do. And I'm glad to be getting people on to talk that I haven't really had a chance to talk to. And just getting to know them, getting to know what they're doing, and getting to understand them a little bit better as individuals. And I'm with you. I definitely hope that when we do come out on the other side of this, I do hope and I do think it will not only give us a better appreciation of each other as individuals, and I just hope it just brings the whole idea of community, just all of us as a larger community together, and just giving us that ability to, say, this was something that wasn't just about me, wasn't just about, the people in my life. It was about everybody. And, that's one of the, I do want that to be something that we as a society take away from that as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was great to finally talk to you. I mean, we've been aware of one another and followed each other on social media for a few years now. But this is the first time we've really talked, so it was really great to talk to you.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's great to always put a voice to a name.
Yeah, exactly. And I will definitely I'll definitely be on the lookout to check out your podcast. That does sound interesting, as well as your features that you've been working on.
if you since I understand you do review movies, is that correct,
That
Brian?
is correct.
If you are interested, I'd be happy to share, if you want, links to any screeners of these things in advance for any of these movies.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we
If
can, I would because I mean, I have been, especially with the two features that you have been working on for a few years now. I mean, I have kind of followed along on social media, those steps along the way to making those realities. So yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be interested in watching those. So
yeah, I'll send you some links to screeners, and no pressure if you get around to take a look at them. If you want to write something, good or bad, I don't mind. I seriously, like I mentioned this earlier. I didn't get to tell the story about this, but I guess I have ego problems. The point where I was on YouTube, and I make the mistake of occasionally Googling myself or my films to see if anything new has popped up. And I was on. This is maybe 2.5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I Googled my movie. I Googled all of them, but I found 2 video reviews of Scary Little Fuckers, and they were scathing reviews. And I love scathing reviews because like it's just like I read them and like. But first thing is like, well, first of all, is this person qualified to review a movie? Because sometimes I don't think they made it out of the 4th grade, and they're out there writing reviews. So, but there was this one in particular, which what they did was they ripped my movie and then they did their own commentary track.
Oh, okay.
So like, wow. Okay. Not that the movie was, it's on YouTube already. So it's not like, it wasn't that big a deal. Right. So like what I love to do though, is write a comment on the review. And they always get all worked up. Like when the filmmaker actually realizes that they're following them and they backtrack. Oh, we're so sorry. We did this out of fun and all that. And, and then they had to ask me, well, we don't really get many filmmakers, replying to us. Do you want to come on our show?
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah, I'll go into. So I went on the show. I went on the show, and honestly, we had a great time. We talked for 2 hours, kind of like what we're doing now. We just talked about film, and we got along great. And yeah, they didn't like my movie, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. You didn't love Scary Little Fuckers either, and guess it's not for everybody, and that's totally cool. But I just love the fact that they were just so cool about it and open about it. And I am never going to like put anybody down for not liking something I did. Right. I don't make movies for everybody. Mm-hmm. That's the whole. So that's okay. But I think it's just something good to bring up that it's you don't have to like be combative with everybody. And they weren't being mean to me. They were just saying this movie didn't do this right. They didn't like that. But they said something. I think they made a comment which I thought was hysterical. That if you remember in the movie, the opening scene it takes place in this general store where the owner is like. He's got herpes, so he's covered in warts and stuff like that. But they made a comment saying that, oh, how did they get Mark Hamill in this movie? He looks awful. And I looked at, wow, he really does look like Mark Hamill in this scene from like the Last Jedi, where he has this beard and what. And I said, next time I'll try to get Mark Hamill in the movie. So I made some snarky comment, and that just like spawned this long conversation. It was right. In the end, it was great. And I love talking to anybody, whether they like it or not. In fact, I love talking to people that hate my movies. It gives us something to talk about. Otherwise, it was great. Yeah, it was great. You like that? It was great. No, I want people to like tell me what they hated about it. Because I just love it. I don't know. Anyways, I digress.
Oh, no problem. No, and that's the thing. Like talking about like it's on social media, especially Twitter, it's so difficult to really have genuine adult conversations where you disagree with somebody about movies. And it's one of those things where, yeah, I know, I will be perfectly honest. It's like, yeah, there are some people where they've sent me their movie. I did not like it, and I don't know if it was necessarily a particular tone in my review or something that about my review that rubbed it the wrong way. I just never hear from him again. Even to say, "Oh, thank you for giving a chance to look at my review," or "Thank you for giving me a chance to look at the film, and I appreciate the feedback." It was like I just never hear from him again.
Yeah, that ain't cool. I thank everybody because honestly, and it's true. If you're a filmmaker and you're just starting off, or whoever, but if someone's taking the time to review your movie, even if they don't like it, even if it's a terrible review, I appreciate the fact that, assuming they watched the whole movie, that they did it, and I thank them because honestly, in this stage of the game, all press is good press.
Yes.
The more, if I'd rather have 100 bad reviews than 5 great reviews on IMDb that I can link to, because at least it looks like, wow, I got people to watch this, and that was my ultimate goal: getting people to watch my movie and talk about it. And if people are reviewing it, it's in the back of their mind. They'll remember it. And at this stage of the game, I'm not out there to become a celebrity or make $1 million. The fact that it just made the impact on people where they can review it is great, and and that's all I need.
Yeah, but one of the things was, it's like sort of like with you where I had this one movie about 2014, I think they sent it to me. I'm like, I flat out hate it. I thought it was a terrible movie, and it's like I reviewed it. I was completely honest. It's like, here's what I don't like about it. Admittedly, there are a couple of things that are okay about it that I enjoyed about it, but it's like, and I'm like, I don't, because I had all of these other instances where the filmmaker just didn't get back to me. So it's like, how do I approach this with them? Where it's like, okay, so I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Here's my review. Here's what I thought about it. It ended up being one of those conversations, sort of like with you and the reviewer of Scary Little Fuckers, where it's like you just end up having this really great conversation because it's like they understood. By that point, they kind of understood that like their movie was not getting the best reviews, but it's like they still appreciated the time that it took to, that you took to watch it. And then just, I felt like part of it was the approach that I took in saying, look, I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't like this film. It's like, here's my review, here's why I didn't like this film. And we just ended up having a really good conversation. I mean, now granted, there are a couple of films of yours that I have liked, but it's like Scary Little Fuckers is a movie that I did not care for. But it's like we're still having this conversation, and it's like we've still followed each other over the years, and it's like it's great to be able to have that type of constructive dialogue about movies in a way that it doesn't have to be now. Yeah, as the filmmaker, yeah, of course it's. I remember because I've written music early. I've written music over the years. I've composed music mainly like electronic stuff and stuff like that. But I mean, I remember, when I started putting it online for people to listen to, it's like I would, somebody was like, "Oh, I'll take a listen to your piece if you post it." It's like, "Oh, here you go." And like the way they approached it rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, I was very, my ego was kind of shot by it. And, basically we had this back and forth and basically got to the point where it's like, they did a bit more because they were more joking about it. Felt like they were more making fun of it than anything as opposed to actually reviewing it. And it's like, I called them out on it, but it's like they ended up doing another review where it's like, okay, so I'm not a fan of this, but here's why. And it's like, it's one of those things where, especially because of, and I think so much of it is because of the fact that it's hard to really gauge tone online. and as opposed to individual conversation. It's like that's such a hard thing to do. And so when you're able to have that conversation with somebody where it's like, oh yeah, here's it, you really show that there's somebody that you're going to have, even if you don't agree with somebody, even if you don't particularly like somebody's work, that doesn't mean you have to be mean about it, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you basically, it's one of those things where it's hard to have that dialogue, and it's good to be able to have that dialogue in a constructive manner.
Absolutely. Even it's funny, even if I got a bad review, I love sharing those on my Facebook page. I will do that. Oh, like I said, it's all press is good press, and again, as long as it's not being mean. It's not that being mean or clearly did not. Actually, the only thing I won't really give a thank you to, if somebody reviews the movie who says they don't like it, and they just basically write out the plot of the movie. Then this happened, then this happened, then this happened.
Yeah.
I've had that a couple times. You're like, this isn't a review. This is an IMDb synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
And then but they actually will give it like a good review. I hated that. I don't know. There's a couple that I got where it's like a A-, a B+ review, and they said nothing about it except for summarize the plot. And I was like, this is awful. And like, I don't think I even posted those. I'm like, that's not even entertaining. Like at least make a review like something that people want to read. Right. Every review should be done that way, because what's the point if you're not making a review to get eyeballs? Because that's what every reviewer wants. To read their material. So I don't know. But anyways.
But no, it was good to talk to you. And after so long, and it's been fun talking to you, and we'll definitely talk more, and I definitely want to check out your features whenever you can get a chance to send some links over. I definitely would want to take a chance to watch them and write about them. So
awesome. I will do so.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, and I'll keep you posted when this gets posted online. So,
yeah, awesome, perfect.
All right, I'd like to thank Nathan for joining me today on the podcast, and it was fun to have a discussion with him, especially when it comes to his films, but just discussing film in general. I think that's something that's kind of difficult to do, especially when it's just behind a keyboard. I think sometimes it's important to be able to have that verbal interaction. That's one of the things I like doing about the podcast. Even if I disagree with somebody on a film, I think having that conversation is more important than anything. Thank you very much for joining me on the Sonic Cinema podcast, and thank you for continuing to support sonic-cinema.com, whether it's just checking out reviews, checking out the podcast, subscribing to the podcast, and or joining the Patreon. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you again.